What if everything you've been told about growing old with someone else was wrong? For decades, society has sold us the same dream, that aging with a partner is the only path to happiness, that happily ever after means growing old together, no matter the cost. But what if that dream is a trap? Today, we pull back the curtain on the hidden reality of late-life relationships. The truth? Thousands of seniors are waking up to a liberating discovery that solitude, not companionship, might be the key to their final chapter of peace, freedom, and joy. This isn't about blaming love. It's about asking the hard question, is my relationship still serving me, or am I just serving it? By the time this video ends, you'll hear stories that challenge everything you thought you knew. You'll meet people who walked away and found themselves again, and you might just realize it's never too late to choose yourself. Stay with me. We've all seen the movies. The elderly couple holding hands on a porch swing, smiling into the sunset. Society tells us this is the goal, that growing old with someone is the ultimate measure of a life well lived. But what if that picture is missing everything that happens off-screen? The truth: aging with a partner isn't just about shared memories and cozy nights. It's about the 1,000 tiny compromises you don't notice, until one day you wake up and realize you've been living someone else's version of your life. Take Helen. At 72, after 40 years of marriage, she did something that shocked her family. She asked for a divorce, not because of betrayal, not even because they didn't love each other, but because one morning, as she made her husband's coffee, the way he liked it too bitter for her taste, she realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd made a choice just for herself. I spent decades calling it love, adjusting the thermostat, laughing at jokes I didn't find funny, going to bed early because he was tired. Then one day I thought, who am I when no one's watching? And I had no answer. Helen's story isn't rare, it's just rarely admitted, because no one wants to say out loud, love sometimes is the quietest form of self-erasure. A 2022 study in the Journal of Aging Studies found that 63% of long-married seniors reported losing touch with their personal desires. And here's the painful part. Most didn't even realize it until their partner was gone, until they sat alone in a silent house and finally heard their own voice again. This isn't about blaming love. It's about recognizing the cost, that happily ever after often means sacrificing the very things that make you, your quirks, your routines, your unfiltered joy. Helen's divorce wasn't an ending, it was a homecoming. At 73, she took her first solo trip to Paris. She ate croissants at midnight. She left the dishes in the sink. And for the first time in decades, she didn't apologize for existing. The question isn't, is love worth it? The question is, what are you willing to lose for it? Reason 1. The month's silent taxa of compromise. In the beginning, compromise feels like love. You give up the movie you wanted to see. You learn to tolerate their mess. You eat dinner earlier than you'd like. These small sacrifices seem noble, proof of your devotion. But time has a way of turning nobility into exhaustion. Because here's the truth no one tells you, every small compromise compounds, like interest on an emotional loan you never meant to take out. And by the time you reach your later years, the debt comes due. Meet George. At 78, he'd been married for 52 years, and for 52 years, dinner in his house was served at 5:30 p.m. sharp. His wife's preference, not his. For 5 decades, George ate when he wasn't hungry, slept when he wasn't tired, and lived by a clock that wasn't his own. Then, last year, his wife passed away. And one night at 11:37 p.m., George found himself standing in his kitchen, making a turkey sandwich. As he took that first bite, standing up, no plate, no rules, something extraordinary happened. He cried. not from grief, from realization. I hadn't eaten past sunset since 1969. I'd forgotten how peaceful the world feels at midnight, how good food tastes when you're actually hungry. George said, what George experienced wasn't just a late-night snack. It was the rediscovery of a fundamental truth. Your desires matter, even the small ones, especially the small ones. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. Every compromise, no matter how tiny, drains your mental energy. And in old age, when your reserves are already low, these daily negotiations can leave you emotionally bankrupt. The silent tax of compromise doesn't just cost you moments. It costs you yourself, the version of you that stays up late reading, that eats dessert first, that sings off-key in the shower without worrying who's listening. George still misses his wife, but he's learned something profound. Love shouldn't mean the slow erasure of your own existence. That turkey sandwich at midnight, it wasn't rebellion, it was resurrection. Because here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop compromising away your joy, you have more love to give, to others and to yourself. The question is, what midnights have you been missing? And this is just the beginning. Because compromise isn't the only silent tax in late-life relationships. Coming up, we'll expose an even more insidious cost, one that steals your most precious resource when you can least afford to lose it. Reason 2, the freedom paradox. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no one else's needs to consider, no compromises to make, no routines to follow except your own. How does that feel? For many, this thought triggers fear, but for others, it sounds like coming up for air after a lifetime of holding your breath. This is what researchers call the freedom paradox, that terrifying, exhilarating moment when you realize true independence in old age isn't about being alone, it's about being whole. A groundbreaking 2023 study in the Journal of Gerontology followed 1,200 seniors for a decade. The finding, those who lived alone reported 37% higher autonomy satisfaction than their coupled peers. But here's what the numbers don't show: the thousands small liberations that make up that percentage. Like Margaret, 81, who sold her shared home after her husband passed and moved into a tiny studio apartment. Her children were horrified. "You'll be so lonely," they said. But Margaret? She was too busy doing something revolutionary, whatever she wanted. The first morning I left my bed unmade until noon. Then I painted the walls purple, not light purple, not lavender, the exact shade I'd loved but never dared to use. After 58 years of beige, that purple felt like my soul singing. Margaret said, "This is the paradox. We spend our lives building relationships that shape us, only to discover in our final chapters that we've lost the shape of ourselves." Consider this. When was the last time you went to bed without checking if someone else was tired? Ate exactly what you craved, no discussion required. Changed your plans on a whim with no explanation needed. For partnered seniors, these simple freedoms often become radical acts, because independence in old age isn't about rejecting love. It's about reclaiming the most intimate relationship of all, the one with yourself. Dr. Eleanor Chen, lead researcher on that 2023 study, puts it bluntly. We found solo seniors weren't just more autonomous, they were more authentically themselves. After a lifetime of social roles, they finally had permission to just be. Margaret's purple walls weren't rebellion. They were revelation, a declaration that after 81 years on this earth, her desires, her simple, beautiful, unimportant desires, finally mattered. The freedom paradox asks us this: is any relationship truly loving if it requires the disappearance of you? Reason 3, the caretaking trap. There's a moment every caretaker remembers. That first time you help them to the bathroom, the first pill you crush into applesauce, the first night you sleep with one ear open, listening for labored breathing. This is when love becomes something else entirely, a sentence served in silence. Meet Lois. For 8 years, she tended to her husband Frank as Parkinson's slowly stole him away. She changed his diapers, she pured his food, she learned to give injections, and when he finally passed at 82, Lois was so relieved, she felt guilty for surviving. 6 months later, Lois was gone too. The official cause? Heart failure, but those who knew her understood the truth. She'd poured every last ounce of herself into Frank's care until nothing remained. This is the caretaking trap, where devotion becomes self-destruction. A 2024 Johns Hopkins study found elderly caregivers have a 63% higher mortality rate than their peers. Not from the physical strain, but from the slow erosion of their own will to live. It starts small, skipping your own doctor's appointments, forgetting to take your medications. Then one day you realize you've become so focused on keeping someone else alive, you've forgotten how to live yourself. What makes this trap so cruel? The very qualities that make someone a good partner, loyalty, selflessness, devotion, become the chains that bind them. The in-sickness vow, meant to comfort, becomes a life sentence with no parole. But there's another way. Sandra, 76, faced the same crossroads when her wife's dementia worsened. Instead of burning herself out, she made the radical choice to move her into professional care. The result? 2 more years of visits filled with laughter and story sharing, instead of resentment and exhaustion. Sandra said, "I realized the woman I loved deserved better than a tired, angry caretaker. She deserved to be remembered by someone who still recognized her." This isn't about abandoning those we love. It's about understanding that sometimes the most loving act is letting go, because no one should have to choose between their partner's survival and their own. The tragic truth, Lois's story happens every day, but it doesn't have to be yours. Reason 4, the financial fog. Love may be priceless, but late life relationships come with hidden price tags. That second set of medical bills, the grandchild's tuition you didn't plan for, the lifestyle upgrades to keep pace with a new partner. What begins as companionship can slowly become the most expensive contract you never signed. Meet Robert. At 69, freshly widowed, he fell hard for Carol. She was vibrant, kind, and financially drowning. Within a year, his $220,000 retirement savings had become their emergency fund, covering her son's business failure, her daughter's divorce, prescriptions her Medicare didn't fully cover. Robert said, "I kept telling myself, this is what love does, until the day my accountant showed me I'd outlived my money by 12 years. Robert's story isn't unusual. A 2023 AARP study revealed 41% of seniors in new relationships experience financial seepage, where one partner's resources slowly absorb the other's. The average loss, $78,000, enough to alter where and how you spend your final decade. The cruelest part? This isn't about greed, it's about guilt. The shame of saying no when someone you love needs help. The fear that setting boundaries means you don't care, so you sign the checks and sign away your security. Then there's the inheritance wars, grown children watching their legacy dissolve into a new partner's debts. The Thanksgiving dinners where someone asks why Grandma's silver is gone, the trust funds that become mistrust. Financial planner Diane Sterling sees it daily. I've had clients postpone knee replacements because they're paying for a partner's grandchild's braces. Love shouldn't cost you your ability to walk. But there's hope. Patricia, 71, uses what she calls the love ledger, a monthly sit-down with her partner to review shared expenses. Romantic? No. Necessary? Absolutely. As she puts it, I already lost one husband. I won't lose my home to another. Patricia said, "We keep separate accounts, split costs 50-50 and never co-sign. It's not lack of love, it's abundance of common sense." The financial fog lifts when you realize true partnership means protecting each other's tomorrows, not sacrificing yours for their today. Because here's the uncomfortable truth no one mentions at candlelit dinners. You can survive a broken heart, a broken bank account in your 80s. That's forever. Reason 5, the identity eclipse. Close your eyes. Try to remember, what did you love before we became your whole identity? That hobby you abandoned? The dream you shelved? The version of yourself that existed before compromise became second nature? For many seniors, this is the most startling realization of all, that somewhere along the way, they became a supporting character in their own life story. Martha was 75 when the divorce papers came through. After 48 years of marriage, she stood in her empty apartment, staring at hands that suddenly looked unfamiliar. These were someone's wife's hands, she thought. But whose hands are they now? Martha said, "One day I bought a $12 watercolor set, just a silly impulse. When that first brushstroke hit the paper, I sobbed. The color was all wrong, the technique was awful, but for the first time in half a century, it was mine." Neurologists call this the awakening effect. When long-coupled seniors spend extended time alone, brain scans show remarkable activity in dormant creativity centers. It's as if the self, long suppressed, is literally reawakening. This isn't about blaming love. It's about the quiet tragedy of the merged identity, that slow fade where your favorite foods become our diet. Your private thoughts become filtered through our values. More, even your memories rewrite themselves to match our narrative. Dr. Eleanor Chen's research reveals the shocking truth. 68% of long-partnered seniors can't accurately recall their pre-relationship preferences when tested, not because they're lying, but because they've truly forgotten. But here's the miracle Martha discovered. Identity isn't lost, it's buried, waiting beneath layers of compromise like a seed beneath winter soil. All it needs is light and space to grow. 2 years after her divorce, Martha held her first art show. The local paper called her a dazzling new talent. She laughed for days about that. New at 77. This is what society never tells you. Solitude isn't emptiness. It's the sacred space where you finally meet yourself again. Not as a partner, not as a parent, just as you. The most important relationship of your life deserves more than leftovers. Let's be clear, this isn't about rejecting love. It's about redefining what love means when the clock is ticking louder. It's about realizing that growing old together should never mean growing smaller together. Aging isn't about enduring, it's about thriving. It's about waking up each morning and asking one radical question. Does this person, this routine, this life still make me feel alive? Because here's the truth no one tells you. The greatest act of love isn't sacrifice. It's showing up as your full self, not just the parts that fit neatly into someone else's life. So let me ask you directly, does your relationship fill you or just fill time? Does it amplify your joy or just absorb your loneliness? Be brutally honest. Your answer might surprise you. For some, partnership in old age is a greenhouse, nurturing, warm, helping them grow. For others, it's a terrarium, beautiful to look at, but slowly suffocating the life inside. The choice isn't between love and loneliness, it's between existing and living, between the comfort of the familiar and the terrifying, exhilarating freedom of writing your final chapters for yourself. You've earned this. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every scar represents a battle you survived. Don't spend your victory lap pretending to be someone you're not. The world needs the real you, unfiltered, unapologetic, finally free. If this video made you pause, if even one sentence resonated, comment "better alone" below. Let's create a movement of people choosing authentic golden years. For every like, we'll share another story of late life freedom, because the more we talk about this, the more people realize they have a choice. Hit subscribe, not for us, for your future self. Because 2 years from now, when you're sipping coffee at sunrise, wearing clothes you love, answering to no one, you'll look back and thank yourself for pressing that button today. This isn't goodbye, it's your first hello to the life you've always deserved.